And we
Okay.
are live. Awesome. All right.
Live on Facebook.
So, good afternoon. Good morning.
I'm sorry, bro. Go ahead.
No, man. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to those tuning in. Thank you for joining us today for another installment of the hashtag Together at Home webinar series from Buffet Crampon. If you are joining us for the first time, my name is Declan Lynch, and I'm the low brass product specialist here at Buffet Crampon USA. And I am joined by a very special guest, which you can clearly see, Mr. DELFEAYO MARSALIS.
George.
Thank you so much for being here, DELFEAYO, and I hope everybody tuning in right now is getting their questions and comments ready to go. Just before we start real quick, just a quick reminder that our Together at Home series has changed from 2 days a week to once a week, Thursdays at 2, and they are now hosted on the Buffet Crampon New York showroom page. Next Thursday at 2 p.m. will be hosted by my good friend and colleague, Matt Vance, and my producer for the day. And he will be joined by the legendary J. Laurie Bloom, bass clarinetist of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. So please tune into that. That will be very cool. But to jump right into it, DELFEAYO, thank you so much for being here today.
No problem. Glad to be here, and thank everybody for tuning in. All three of you.
So obviously, I wish you could be here so we could be doing this under better circumstances. But obviously, that's the whole greater pandemic situation is kind of what led us into doing this little series at home. So I always like to jump it off and see what everybody has been keeping busy with. You know, obviously for musicians, this has put pretty much everything on a hold. So how have you been staying busy?
Yeah, I was sick for a little. I found out I did have the 19 back in March.
I'm so sorry, but
took me out from March to April. Barely touched the horn, and then I still have like breathing issues. Like I've always been one to obsess over the whole breathing thing, but now it's like it's just I got to get back into the swing of it where I'm not thinking. All right, take the air. Just it's just a whole different kind of a reality. But I have started doing a couple of videos, and we did live at the Blue Note on Sunday night with the Jazz Orchestra uptown,
cool.
And that's available. I guess y'all can find the video. Really a fun show, and really kind of that's what I feel the role of New Orleans musicians. The role is in all of this is to bring the joy, man, to bring the celebration. And that's very important to us. So the band is a good representation, and we also have a great slamming video on our title track of the new CD, Jazz Party. That's how I think we always want to have a good time and, kind of do things that are really different. We got some wacky effects and everything on the video, so that's fun.
Yeah, I know I'm late to the party with this, but congratulations on the new CD. That's awesome. I think I listened to it a couple days ago.
Yeah, you're late. What took so long?
I know.
My people gonna find you. We're gonna find you.
And I love the cover and everything, but I assume that this is not the way that you guys wanted the next 6 months to go after releasing the CD. Were there big plans or anything like that for you, for the orchestra to do any touring or anything like that?
Yeah, we had a number of gigs that have been postponed, but man, throughout generations, people haven't had certain things work out the way they had hoped, and you just have to alter your plans. So we're pretty optimistic. It looks like it's going to be a longer run than we're used to. The good part from the musician standpoint of view is that we're used to going stretches of time without having gigs. So this is a longer stretch than we had hoped. But I think that we're optimistic about everything. And as you can see from the video that we did, man, the chops are up, and guys are really exciting. And there's something about playing music, and I find it especially with jazz. You can have that experience sometimes. I've had in the orchestra. One time, I guess, when I was at Eastern Music Festival, at the end of my sophomore year, we played Sibelius No. 2. And I remember that the brass section, we just was nailing it. And that was exciting. But there's something about the jazz orchestra and that experience when you have that group a group of 15, 16. In this case, I think we had about 20 people. And it's like a family, and we're coming together, and the energy is just great. And so there's a healing aspect to the music, and that's what we're trying to bring out. And, that's why people enjoy live performance so much, because it gets inside of you and it heals you. Did I answer the question? What was the question?
I think so.
I didn't forget.
That's fair. I understand. So, trying to go back in time. Tell us about how you started on trombone. I know on a couple other situations you kind of say the trombone chose you. How did the trombone choose you?
Well, yeah, the trombone is something about it, man. It's I think you find that a lot of times people are attracted to instruments, and it kind of mirrors their personality. I wasn't thinking of it in those terms, but Branford was already playing saxophone and went and had the trumpet at that point. My dad was playing piano, and the trombone just spoke to me. Like it was something about having 5 brothers at the time. There was 5 of us at that point. So something about having 4 brothers where we had the kind of the not so much rivalry, but like the sibling rivalry going. So I was like, man, I'll get my own thing. And when I saw the trombone, I said, damn, okay, nobody would want to play this. Let me grab this. And, it's such a great instrument, and it's so lyrical. It took me a while, I think, to really find what I like to do, find where I am and what really suits my personality on the instrument. And I would say for a jazz player, that's the most difficult thing, to really find out who you are and be able to play that, whenever you're playing, to represent who you are through the instrument.
Mm-hmm. And what was it about the combination of trombone and your being from New Orleans that helped you find that voice? What about, the New Orleans community and all of that music that you hear coming out of there? What was it all about that just made it work for you in trombone?
Well, I've always had an affinity for ballads, for slow playing. I always liked, the way that Miles played, the Billie Holiday, Al Gray. But I grew up kind of in the JJ school, and that wasn't really, I didn't look to JJ for that type of playing. But JJ was so precise and so clear with his thought. And he would play with such precision and accuracy that was something that was important to me. But as I matured, especially when I spent some time with Elvin Jones, and man, that's the greatest loss for us as jazz musicians, is that generation of musician, and they're all gone at this point. Maybe Sonny Rollins is still around, but not accessible. Because when you play with those older guys, you learn about everything. You learn about being a man. You learn about, responsibility and family, and the music is part of that also. But Elvin would always, Mr. Jones would always insist. He wouldn't insist, but he would always request that I play "What a Wonderful World." And I'm like, oh, what a wonderful world. Oh, what an easy song. But he was a big fan of Louis Armstrong. In fact, he talked a lot like Louis Armstrong, and he had a lot of mannerisms and different things about Louis Armstrong. And after a while, after a couple of years of playing it with him, I could understand that he felt Louis Armstrong was the most important musician that America has produced. And it was important for me to be in touch with Louis Armstrong and to find that sensibility. And that's what we need now, is somebody like Louis Armstrong. We're in a situation now, you got the whole Black Lives Matter movement, and now all of a sudden everybody's realizing what people have been talking about for 400 years. You know what I mean? It's been going on, but now all of a sudden there's this consciousness. And I said, Louis Armstrong, he really dealt with it. Like, he dealt with the real thing. And when you're from the deep South, like I'm being from New Orleans, it's another kind of a thing that you just experience. It's like, there's no way to really explain it to you exactly what it is. But there's that thing. There's kind of that Confederate ignorance and arrogance at the same time that still goes on. But man, and it's a difficult thing because it challenges your manhood. You have to look at the situation and say, man, now how am I going to respond to this? Louis Armstrong, he always figured out a way to smile and laugh it off. Not because he was happy, but because he understood that this is the approach that's going to be the most effective. This is what I have to do. And I think that Louis Armstrong allowed the avant-garde musicians. He allowed Charlie Parker. He allowed Ornette Coleman. He allowed, Albert Ayler and all of the guys that were playing outside. Because when you have that home base, then you can take it on the outside. And the analogy I would use in classical music, I was at Tanglewood when Luciano Berio conducted his Sinfonia. It was in the shed in 82, 83. And when Berio walked out, the shed was half full. Yeah, you there?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, I see you going, okay. So anyway, Berio walks out, the shed is half full. And he's doing the Sinfonia, man, by the time he finished, that half was halved. So it was literally a small pool of people because people are like, this avant-garde music. I think the avant-garde music is extremely important, but it's never going to be your home base. Folks want to hear Mozart, they want to hear Bach, they want to hear Beethoven. They want to hear things that are more mainstream and traditional. And that's what Louis Armstrong represented. Louis Armstrong had to have come from New Orleans because he just had a certain understanding that you look at him and then Charlie Parker being from Kansas City, his understanding of the world, they had two totally different understandings of the world. And Louis Armstrong, that's what we need now. We really need somebody that can be like, hey, everything is going to be cool. No matter what. Man, Louis Armstrong never sounded bad. There's not a single recording of him sounding bad. Video, and he played all of the time. But there was something in his spirit where he wanted to make you feel good. He wanted to make the people around him feel good. And that's, to me, the big change in my playing is embracing that idea. I didn't necessarily grow up thinking that way, but now I'm thinking, man, what does the world actually need? What does the world need? And that's what my Uptown Jazz Orchestra, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring something that is going to put people in the place where we feel they need to be.
Well, and you talk about just like, as you just said, people where they need to be, and you do so much for your community in New Orleans.
As an A flat.
How did the Uptown Music Theater come together, and what has the journey been like to create something that is so impactful and so important in a community, such as something like that?
I just did it on a whim. I just do things on a whim, like it not necessarily long-term plan, but the short story is I wrote a musical. I was attempting to write a children's opera, and it was kind of a commission from the Dallas Opera, but it ended up not being that. It ended up being a musical, and we performed the musical here in New Orleans with a company, and I had such a good time. The kids had such a good time. They would call me. So we did the show was in '97, and for 3 straight years during the summer, the kids would call me and say, Mr. DELFEAYO, when are you going to start your own musical theater program? And I'm like, man, I have no interest in that. And finally, the 3rd year, a kid calls me and he's like, Mr. DELFEAYO, you going to do your program this year? And I said, yes, we're going to do it this year, this summer, just so that y'all will stop calling me. So I got together a director and a choreographer and the pianist, and I said, look, we're going to just have a summer program. And that was in 2000. That's literally how it started. And, 20 years later, we've been able to bring kids to major international competitions where they're just, handling their business. And, it's just one of those things that sometimes things come into your life, even unexpectedly, and it has a great change for the better. And I would say that it's really had a great impact on me and my understanding of, where people are. And I kind of, I've grown to love the musical theater thing. Not like the jazz thing. It's a little different. But I've written about 16 musicals and introduced the kids to jazz songs and, different things. I have an American Legacy series. And that's how it happened. And the one thing that the Uptown Music Theater and the Uptown Jazz Orchestra have in common is just kind of, it's a family type of an environment. And you know, we all we get along, even if we have disagreements, we have that common goal in mind. So that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what do you want to hear? Any requests? No requests from anybody?
Well, what a wonderful world.
All right. Oh, wonderful world. I swear to get that in tune. Low note. That's Sesame Street. Yeah. Recorded that song by total accident. I was doing a warm-up exercise, you know. I'm doing that. And the bass player starts playing boom, ding, 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 ding. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? John Clayton. He's like, yeah, Sesame Street, right? I'm like, no, but I guess so. It's in E. Because he got that low E string. So I'm like, okay. And it ended up, it's totally unplanned, ended up being one of our favorites on the CD. That's The Last Southern Gentleman. That's the CD with my dad. And so you never know, you got to always be ready. Say, hey, Sesame Street, who knew? Who knew? I didn't go there planning to play in E. I'm like, okay, well, here you go. Practice your E scale. Scales, plural. So there you go. But when in doubt, play the blues. That's the key, y'all. That's the key, right? So you're in E, and it's like, what are you going to play in E? What can you possibly play? It's 1 to the 4. You don't have a guitar. Guitar players are just running everything. 1 to the 4 in E. They're in heaven. So you got your E scale, right? And then you got the E, like the dominant scale. That's the major bebop, and you got the dominant bebop. That's the difference right there, right? The major bebop, and then the dominant bebop is. Sorry, I'm messing it up. Anyway, so you're playing a vamp, right? All you got to do is play some blues. And then, of course, everybody's favorite. Anyway, might be blowing a little loud. Am I blowing too loud? I'm blowing loud.
No, you're perfect. It sounds great.
Is that all right? I never know what that.
You'd probably be just fine without the mute. I think it'd be perfect.
I love this bubble mute, man. The bubble is, it's a great mute for playing if you're soloing in jazz because it has bite. The regular harmony, it's for my liking, it doesn't have that edge. When you're playing, the guy's playing with the ride cymbal, you want something that's going to have edge and cut. So that's the thing. That's the thing I'd say. So yeah, there we go. All right. What else? I'm still coming to get you, man. Okay, don't think you off the hook.
Well,
give me the last name like Lynch. Lord have mercy. I'm in the deep south talking to Lynch. Oh my goodness. What's going on there, brother Lynch? I'll play another song for you. Didn't tell you about me, huh? I'm a bit of a trickster. Sorry about that.
No, you're fantastic, and everybody tuning in, thank you so much for being here. And please remember, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section. We have a couple people tuning in saying, "Hey, with Al Maniscalco, director of sales here at Buffet Crampon USA. What up, Delph?"
Who is that?
Al Maniscalco.
Oh, yeah. What's up, bro? Big Al in the house. Al knows about playing some blues.
Oh, we have a couple.
Anybody else?
We got Veronica Lee, hello from Bucks County. Hey, Veronica, we have one just a little bit, scroll up just a little bit there. All right, from Deborah Hamilton Schoening. Hey, cuz, love your inspirational live streams. Hashtag NOLA Blood.
Yeah. Debbie, what's up, mama? Yeah, you're right.
Awesome. And everybody, please continue to chime in with some questions. So you are seen as somewhat of a renaissance man in the jazz world with your ability for not only just being a musician and trombone player, but with being a producer, recorder, recording, educating, and everything like that. How when did your career turn from just going trombone playing to doing as many different things as you do, or was it like that from a young age?
Yeah, I don't know if they consider me a Renaissance man, but thank you for that. Nobody, like people don't care at this point. They're like, whatever. Uh, I started producing early, probably fifth or sixth grade, and that was more because there was a need for somebody to press the red button. And Branford and Winton were performing recitals, or they might need a demo tape. And actually, I started off with I had a red Radio Shack. It was a realistic tape recorder. It was a cassette tape, and that's what I used for the first year, 2 years of my recording career. Mm-hmm. Used to press the two buttons down, and that would record. And I just sneak up on people, and I'd have the little recorder there. And then I upgraded. By the time I was in eighth grade, I bought a realistic microphone mixer. It was a 4-channel mixer, and actually, I kept it for the longest time, but when Hurricane Katrina came, it was in storage and it got all wet, and so I just got rid of it. I should have kept it though, because that was one of my favorites. And I think the mixer cost $19.99. Everything at Radio Shack was either $19.99, $39.99. No, the mixer would have been about $49.99. And I bought two realistic microphones, and they must have been $39 or $49.99 each. And then our band director, Mr. Peter Dumborian, he sold me two Murad, I think it was Murad microphones. So I had my collection. I had the 4 microphones. I got some stands from somewhere, and I used to go around, and that was the thing. I was like, and it was really a lot of trial and error. When Winton did his audition tape for Sony, he came home so he was at Juilliard and he was gigging, but he came home and he did a demo tape with my dad. They went to the local studio. It was more of a rock kind of a studio. So they didn't really have an ambient sound. Mm-hmm. And as they were preparing, I just set my stereo microphone up, and went and heard that. He said, "Damn, man, you got a better sound in the studio. How do you do that?" And I said, which I really didn't understand anything about the acoustics, but that's when it began. Mm-hmm. And Winton was great at inspiring. So he always, it's like if you wanted to play basketball, he would get you tapes of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant to say, "This is how you have to play or don't play." So he'd get Maurice Andre records. Maurice was, of course, the greatest virtuoso trumpeter before him. And then Maurice Andre, I'd listen at these records, and, I didn't know anything about expensive equipment or churches, or I had no idea what they were, what all the logistics were. I just knew that the recordings that I was making with my $100 total worth of equipment couldn't compare to what Maurice Andre records sounded like. So that was the thing. Winton would always come on, "Man, why can't you get this sound?" So I said, "All right, we're going in the bathroom, man. We go in the bathroom." Now the bathroom has the best ambience, but it's too small. So the sound is about, I don't know, the bathroom. So then we go to the front room. The front room has carpet in it, and the sound doesn't travel as much. Okay, so we went into the kitchen, and of course the kitchen actually has the best sound. My mom was like, "Boy, get out of here with that. I'm trying to cook dinner." So we couldn't record in the kitchen too often, but that had the best sound in the house. And so that's the process that I used over the years. And I still use that process. It's kind of the combination of common sense and the process of elimination. And that works well in so many instances. In fact, one of when I have my Uptown Music Theater kids and we're working, I always tell them common sense entertainment. I always want them to be prepared for when things are not right. Everybody can be prepared when things are right. But I always want them to know that when something happens, you're not going to be caught unawares. So, don't look around like, what's going on? So anyway, saying all that to say, I try to use the process of elimination, and we do what works. Try to figure out what works best. So that's how I started with that. Oh yeah, okay. I'm just rambling on and on. So the producing thing went on, and man, time flies. I didn't really realize how condensed your life actually is. By which I mean, and when I was 17 years old, my dad allowed me to produce his record, and even back then, I was like, no amplification on the bass. So I came in, just here I am, senior in high school. I just graduated, and I'm telling the bass player, "You're not going to use an amp." And this guy's looking like, oh, "Okay, whatever." So I think that was the first recording of that generation with no amplification, without the dreaded bass direct, which is another whole story. But then 3 years later, I'm producing Branford's records. It's like, I just was one of those things. And it was right place at the right time. There was nobody of Branford's generation really producing jazz records. Everybody was trying to get to the pop game or whatever it was. That was before rap, right before rap. And I had the interest, and Branford gave me the call. And I can look back and say, boy, I really wasn't ready for that. That was a big jump. It was a big jump. But I just kind of stuck to the guns, and so that's how that happened. And then there was a guy at Sony Records, George Butler, and he looked after me. He gave me a number of projects working with Donald Harrison and Terrence Blanchard. I did a Harry Connick's first record, and George Butler was the guy that said, "Look, I want, you got some good things happening." So anyway, that's that. So that's the production thing. Trombone, I went to Berkeley, and it's funny because the first year my recital, man, I'm cooking. The second year was most times in the studio. So I hear that recital, I'm like, okay, we're gonna burn that tape. I don't think I even. The third year, same thing. I'm back to the chops. The next year, it's like, so the main thing for me is just to maintain and have the chops to get across whatever your point is, whatever you're trying to say musically. You want to have the chops to do that.
Mm-hmm. So what's a warm-up routine look like for you to keep those chops in shape?
Well, I had some trouble. I had some trouble a few years ago that I never had with notes not speaking. So I called Conrad Herwig, and I was like, man, I told him what it was. So he turned me on to these exercises called Stacy exercises. And someone else, he also turned me on to his teacher. Man, the names are just not coming to me. Hopefully the name will come to me. Really great guy in LA. And he turned me on to the Rene Lamarck exercises, but it's a lot of buzzing. So the main thing, and this is a great thing, if you can find a Rene Lamarck, it's all about the buzz. So you take a B flat and then but you're moving the mouthpiece away. And it's forcing you to keep your corners. I've always had corner issues, right? So you do that, and then you do a. So you play once with it on, then with it off. But you always keep contact with the mouthpiece. So it's just about building these muscles. And man, I spend time doing that. And then I'm pretty much ready. Then after that, I like to buzz. I like to, do a multiphonics. And Albert Mangelsdorf has a great record, man. I don't know the name of the record, but there's a song on it, and it goes up. He's singing up in octave, but I don't have that falsetto. So, but it's this. It's up. And up there, I guess I'll try it would be. Can't sing up there, but I play it down there. And that helps me to center the tone. So some kind of buzzing. So I do the mouthpiece exercise. I'm gonna do that. And then I've been working on my scales. I've been trying to go through all of, I do the major, then I do all of my minors, and then I try to do the blues scale. Blues scale is kind of dry, but to get that, at tempo, it's like, 7 position, 6 position, who needs it? Anyway, that's the warm up. That's what I do. And since I've been coming back from the COVID, that's what I make sure I do that every day.
Mm-hmm.
I do that every day. Then I try to play some music. I've been learning Charlie Parker songs. Really good one. It's called Visa. See if I can do it. You know what I did in a moment? I was thinking about the ending because the ending is kind of wacky. The ending for the trombone goes, it goes, like he jumps. Man, it's a great record. Great record. Charlie Parker's Visa. And it took me a while to learn it because the trombone, man, that's really a great song to study from a compositional standpoint because the trombone has the melody, some notes, and then harmony, some notes. So it's like they're playing unison. Ba, 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 da, 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 ba. And then the harmony starts. Ba, da, 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 da. Ba, ba, da, ba, da. That's actually the melody. Da, 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 even though it's lower than the harmony. Da, 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 da. And then unison. Ba, 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 da, ba, da, ba, da, ya, da. He goes, ba, da, ba, da. Charlie Parker has the harmony right, the melody right there after harmony. Ba, 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 da, la, da. Unison. Ba, 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 da, ba, da, la. Harmony chord. Ba, ba, da, ya, da, la. Harmony, ba, da, harmony, ba, 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 da. That's actually the melody down there. Ba, 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 da. Verse playing something else. Beep, beep, ba, da. So, I mean, it's interesting, man. That's one of the great songs. Anyway, sorry.
No.
Where we at? What did you ask? Oh, warm up. Yeah. So I've been working on those tunes. Those tunes are really good. And if there's any classical guys, and you're like, man, I don't know how to play the jazz thing or whatever. But I would say take some bebop songs, and you can play it like a classical exercise. Which let me see if I can just set up. Well, I won't set up the metronome right now, but you can imagine. So you have the metronome. So you say, I'll take a different tune. Let's say, how does bongo beat go up? So, here, bongo beat is. Sorry. So I'd say, I'd do like. Come on, use your air, get the top note up, and then you can play it. Man, sorry about this. I switched to a 6.5 AM. I used to play an AL, and just the nation is still kind of bugging me. But I would say take these songs, and that's when I'm up against it. That's what I really do. Another thing is, I think my mute is in the car. A practice mute is really good to have your practice mute in and play really strong. That's what somebody said to me that J.J. Johnson used to play really, really strong and aggressive, with a lot of tut, 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 tut. And then you check out the recordings of the Basie Orchestra, a lot of times they'd have eighth notes. They're actually playing them like 16th notes with 16th note rest. That's how they get that crisp sound. You know, the bass orchestra and the Ellington orchestra, but really the bass orchestra, when you listen to how crisp they're playing. So that's another good exercise, because the beast of the trombone is you want to have the legato similar to in classical music, but the thing is to have that, to play with that punch. And I guess we have a similar challenge playing with punch in the classical arena too. You know, if you're playing Stravinsky or something, you know, you want that. You know, so, you know, man, it's all the same kind of, you know. And then sometimes I do that, you know, you know of Danny Bonvin? Danny, B-O-N-V-I-N? Danny. So yeah, Danny Bonvin's like, he's like my age. Like he's probably a little younger than me. So I remember I went to Berkeley and I come back and man, there's this 16, 17-year-old kid and he's just playing. And it was an LP. I still have the LP. And he starts off with this tune. I hope I remember it. Forgive me if I don't. It's let me see if I can. And the band is like, it's like a high school band, man. So they're just like, but he sounds so majestic. You know, it's like, and he comes in and they got boom, ping, boom, ping, boom, ping, ping, boom, ping, ping. And it's like, man, that's something that I learned easily 25 years or more ago. But I like to play that. I didn't learn the whole thing, but I like as much of it as I like. And the second time it goes, and it's like, okay, you're gonna single tongue that, but that part I like because I can work on my doodle tongue and try to play it really precise. But you know, and you know, of course, Christian Lindbergh and Joel Essie and these guys, and you know, I find that for me, it's when I hear something, I can make it happen more than it's like I get the sheet music and it's like, it's whatever it is. So I try to align myself with guys that can really play. And I just imitate that. I imitate that sound. And that's really a plus to me, if you can really hear what something sounds like. Because I've had teachers, I had one teacher in particular, Brett Schuster. He's at University of Louisville. And so I went in and, you know, I'm like, I started to play classical music. I hadn't played classical music in probably 20 years. And so we go through this whole process. And right before my last recital, I was playing an Erasing piece, and I said, I'm gonna just learn 8 bars of this off the record. So, was it Douglas Yo? I think it might have been Douglas Yo is playing this thing, and so I took the first 8 bars, and I learned it that week. And I come into the lesson, and I play those 8 bars, and he stopped and he said, "Well, look," he says, "somehow what I've been trying to get you to work out these past 3 semesters, you've worked out in a week. So whatever you did this past week, just keep doing that and forget anything I said to you." And I said, well, I just learned it off the record. And he said, but that's what it is. And that's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to, is how do you hear the music and how do you use your technique to get to the place where you want, you know, where do you want your sound to be? And that's something when I took a lesson or two with Arnold Jacob when he was still around. I went to Chicago. Yeah. And it's the same thing, you know, I believe in like exercise. Man, I want to know what routine can I do in this. And Arnold Jacob, he was like, I guess at that point, you know, I was playing professional gigs too. I think I was probably playing with Elvin Jones, and he heard me and he was like, so I guess he's thinking, okay, well, the stuff that you don't have together, it will take a long time for us to work that out. So he just says, man, play something musical, play a melody, play something, sing. And I forget when we played something, and he's just like singing and la, la, la. I'm like, man, come on, man, really? This is what it is? But yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea, is make the music happen. Because at the end of the day, that's what people want, something that they can identify with, you know, something that speaks to them. So I'd say, you know, and I'll just jump into you know, the big change in my playing over the past decade or so has been embracing the New Orleans sound. By which I mean, so I host like a TV show. It's a community, it's a local show. And I had a guy named Big Sam Williams. Big Sam is like, he blows louder than anybody. I mean, he would outblow, you can put him in the Chicago or one of those brass sections. And from a volume standpoint of view, because, you know, he's playing out in the street, so he can blow. So Big Sam came on the show and he played a song, a New Orleans song called I Got a Big Fat Woman. It's a blues, the whooping blues. And not long after that, a fella by the name of Corey Henry, another great trombone player, he played, and then Trombone Shorty came on the show. And they all played this one song. And what I realized was their approach to rhythm was completely different from mine. A Big Fat Woman. I played it a while, right? So I come from trying to play that style. So once I thought about what they were doing, I came to the gig and I said, man, we're gonna play a Mardi Gras. And I said, and what that does, you know, you can hear the street. You can hear folks like immediately, you know, you're like, yeah, stop that. Get in. That's what people want to hear. You know, people, so it's the question of how do you incorporate that with the single line, the idea of that. And that's the sound of my band, Uptown Jazz. The sound of the jazz orchestra it's like the street. So you got the street sound, and then you got the traditional jazz. There's a difference between traditional New Orleans and street, right? The street has a harder, it's more percussive. It's like folks, you know, they want to shake that thing, and they outside, so they're not being reserved. So it's got to have a certain edge to it. The traditional sound, if you're inside, that's more like a, right? So there's a lot of rhythmic and volume disparity. There it is. Come on, get your words together. Use your words. Anyway, so, you know, there's a difference. And what we try to do is you try to be able to play the street sound. You want to play the traditional New Orleans sound. We want to be able to play bebop. We want to be able to play something modern. Of course, we got to play something funky. That's the New Orleans thing. And then we want something romantic like ballads. That's kind of, you know, my favorite thing to do. And, you know, try to mix it all in there and, you know, and do as much as we can.
So, how does the...
Can you hear this? Yep. Right? Check this out. Check this out. Check this. Wait, let me get to where I think it's... Yeah, check it out. Woo. All right, so that's Dennis Wick.
Yep.
Dennis Wick went to London. So you Google Mahler's Third, and all of these articles come up about a guy by the name of Hornstein. I believe that's his name, conductor. And So Dennis Wick recorded a version with Sir George Solti. I think Dennis Wick might have been like 25 or 26 or 27 years old. He was really young with the London. He did that in the 60s. And then a few years later, he recorded again with this other conductor. I think it's Hornstein. And that's the one they always talk about. But it's like, well, you know, Mahler was Jewish and Hornstein was Jewish and oh, it's this great thing. But I'm listening to him and I'm saying, man, I don't really hear that. I mean, that other one is cool, but man, that one with Sir George Solti. And it's interesting because, like, you know, Wick is not making all of the notes. It's like he's playing so ridiculously loud. So I said, man, I've got to call Dennis Wick. So finally one day I got the number, I called Dennis Wick. This had to be about 6, 7 years ago. And I said, man, I just have one question to ask you. And I said, you played these two different versions of Mahler's Third. What do you recall was the difference? And he said, well, he said, as I recall, he said, Sir George Solti did not have, he said something to the effect of, he did not have a certain respect for the opinion of the musicians, by which he meant, he said, in fact, I think I asked him to use a different take, but he used the first take anyway. So I guess he did 2 takes, and he said, Hornstein, however, he allowed the musicians to pick the takes, and, you know, we all got together and we did it, we made it sound the way that we thought was best. And I said, you know, I thanked him and I said, but you know, the lesson there is that the musician will always make the wrong decision because as musicians, we're concerned with not missing notes. So, man, you put that thing on and I'm like, yeah, okay, you can say, wow, he didn't hit the low A clean or whatever, but it's like, man, it's so emotional. It's like, this is what music is about. And I know Sir George Solti was like, you know, that's what made him great was he was like, yeah, okay, you missed a couple of notes, so what? This has kind of the emotional impact. And a lot of times when we're playing, that's what I'm trying to figure out. How can we make an emotional impact on the audience? And it's tough when you're playing jazz. And this is what I refer to, man. I send this to the jazz orchestra and say, bro, this is what we need to sound like. When we're playing, we need to have, because you listen to this and it's like, man, what is going on here? I don't know what it is, but it's something serious. And, you know, that to me, that's the importance of music. So it's not that you want to miss a bunch of notes. That's not, you know, that's not the point. But, man, this is, so if you get that version, that's Wick, that's the London, it's somewhere in the 60s, Sir George Solti. And I'm just like, man, that stuff is, I loved it. I love the classical stuff, man. Really great. Nothing like the sound of an orchestra playing great music.
Absolutely.
Written by great composers. Was there a question? No, I just went into that.
No, that was great. I was gonna jump into the instrument part. You have a lovely horn sitting right there. And the name of this stream specifically was From Paris to New Orleans. So how does a French instrument help you get that New Orleans sound?
I'm not gonna remember it. Sorry, that terrible breathing. I should have stood up and played that. Sorry, y'all. I just couldn't resist. That's terrible. Forgive me. Man, how good is that, right? And this is a small horn. This isn't the big horn. Yeah. So you know, this is of course the TR 402. Right? TRR. I'm always bad with the numbers, but it had some custom designs. But this is my favorite horn. I played on a Bach 16 for years. I did that actually at the request of Bill Watrous back a long time ago. Watrous, at that point I was playing a Blessing, and I saw Watrous somewhere, and he said, I think it was the Idaho, and actually it was Idaho Jazz Festival, and he was like, always playing really smooth and really great, and he said, oh yeah, Bach 6, this is all I play is Bach, and I went to the music store. In fact, I was going on the road with Abdul Ibrahim. We were going to Europe the next week, And I went to the music store and I said, I need a box 16. And I got the 16 and took it to Europe. I hadn't played it before. Ended up playing that for 20 years or so. And then I'm not exactly sure how I became introduced to Courtois. Might have been through Maniscalco. But I'm like, man, because sound is what's most important to me. You know, I don't really play very fast. Don't have the high register. It's not really what I do. The tone quality. And I grew up playing orchestral music and then the orchestra. You know, that's really important to me. And for me, man, the sound of this instrument is so superior to everything. And then the tricked out part of it, you know, Mike Corrigan, you know, he has his own company. He keeps, man, you know, I want you to play one of my ones. I said, make something I like the sound of, and I'll play it. But this thing here, this is where the sound is. But he put the stain there. You know, he's got the show called Pimp My Horn, and his idea for Pimping the Horn was to put the stained glass, because I said I like to play in a church, and I live in a Victorian house, so he got the stain. Got the fleur-de-lis, and that's the red. I'm a big Shakespeare fan, Shaq. That's the fires from the Globe Theater. And then these are the blue waters from Hurricane Katrina. And then you got the bell of the horn blowing out sweet notes of redemption. I don't know if you can see all of that.
It's beautiful.
Like that. Yeah, is that it? That's it. Huh?
Yeah.
Then I got my Shakespeare quote.
Ooh.
Have more than you show and speak less than you know. It's right there.
Look at that.
Yeah. So, and I think they did something with the coloring. This is the rose bell, and they kind of brushed it, gave me the mahogany look on the inside. But man, this TRR, I mean, this thing has saved my life, man. I love the sound, the center on the sound, you know, the center of the tone is so pure. I can play really soft, and I love to really play soft on the, you know. And that's something that I had a lesson with the great Dick Nash. And when I was playing with Elvin Jones, I went to the house and he said, "Man, play something for me." And I was like, "I'll play something for you." He said, "Whoa, no, play softer." And I'm, no, man, just really play. He said, "Play as soft as you can." And I went. So I was like, man, I've been playing loud for so long, like I never play soft. So I went home, man, I was like for a solid month. And then sometimes they don't come on, but for now, when I want to go there, you know, it's really great because we'll be playing something really loud and boisterous, man, and the crowd is really up and everybody's excited. The dirty old man just played. He's got his song, something like, I'm a dirty old man. I feel like spanking somebody. And people up dancing, woo, yeah. And then all of a sudden, you know. And it's like, just from an emotional standpoint of view, man, the people are like, they're in this really high, and then all of a sudden they're just like, oh my goodness, you know? And it's like, at that point, everybody's set, you know? Whatever happens after that, the people leave the club, and it's gonna be a good night. The rest of the night, it's gonna be a good night. So anyway, there we go. Did that answer the question? What was the question?
Absolutely, thank you. And we're almost out of time here, but I figured
What?
I know,
Already?
I'm sorry.
Well,
We have a couple more questions though. We have
Right,
a couple more things we can get through from the comment section.
Down. I know that these doggone stools hurt your buttocks. Okay. I should have had a pillow on this thing. Lord have mercy.
From our
What you
from
got?
our own woodwind product specialist, Matt Vance, could you talk about your children's book, No Cell Phone Day?
Oh yeah, I have one around here somewhere. Yeah, I love technology. Like in my productions, I always was at the forefront of. We were using Pro Tools when it was a joke in the industry. The guys had made it out of their garage, and we're bringing it in. This is early '90s, maybe late '80s. I think it was early '90s. So, and folks are like Pro Tools, but I started off cutting with the razor blade, the big 2-inch tape, and I could do that. And then when the digital 24-track machines, I think we were the first ones to figure out how to edit. It's multi-track. So with digital, you could edit. Now it's easy with Pro Tools, but with the big reels, we were editing like tracks at the time. So you have 24 tracks. Everybody cuts. The classical guys, they all cut. So if this is where your edit is, they cut on a downbeat. But I say, okay, we're going to cut the drums on a downbeat. We're going to bring the bass a beat and a half later. We're going to bring the piano in. So that way you hide the sound of the edit. I'm just saying all that to say, I love technology. But at the same time, I'm like, man, it can get in the way. And now everybody's on the cell phone, and we're so tied to technology. When my daughter was like, I don't know, 6, 7, or 8 years old, I decided we were going to have a no cell phone day. She had to be probably closer to around 6 because she was all excited. She said, we have a no cell phone. That's what you used to call it. We have a no cell phone day. So, I wrote down some things. I said, look, we're going to take the streetcar, and we're going to go to a restaurant, and, we're going to go to the aquarium. Just different things that we would do without the cell phone. The great thing then, at least, she's not that way now, but she was so excited about the idea of, and it was, such a, I guess like it was an innocent kind of moment. It was a pure thing. It's like, we're just going to go out and just not having that cell phone though. We had packed lunches. It was really, it was a good time. And I said, yeah, I should just write a book about that. So I think I had a gig in Hawaii, and on the way there, I just wrote it down on a piece of paper. I wrote the whole idea down, and I put the book out. I should write another book actually. But all that said, that's what the book was about. No Cell Phone Day, and I need to have one now. Sometimes you just need to recharge, man. Yeah. Even though now I think we're in such a panic now. You got the pandemic, and we always want to watch the news, and we want to say, okay, how many people are dying now, and what's the state of the pandemic? Sometimes it's better to just get away from it, man. Clear your mind. In fact, I think I'm gonna go do that, man. We might go rent a cabin or something somewhere. You know what I mean? It just allows your body to, yeah. That's how your body recharges. Like you have to plug the devices up to recharge them. But for yourself, you have to get unplugged, I think to really recharge. Anyway, No Cell Phone Day. Yes. Now available at Amazon.
A couple from our New York showroom manager, Lori Orr. First, she's just
saying, Lori! What's up, mama?
2 questions are, what schools do you teach in, and what slide loops do you use for slide or main tuning slide or anything like that?
Oh, 2 totally different questions. I don't teach in the schools. I don't have the patience. I have the utmost respect, for the teachers, but man, it's a tough thing. I was such a terrible student that I know I can't put up with, 20 of myself. But I think I work better to reinforce what the teachers teach. In a way, it's a little unfair because I come in and I'm just like, yeah, this is what we're going to do. And this is something that the teachers are constantly telling the students. So I like to just kind of do that. I like to reinforce. But I'm not currently at a school. I don't, sometimes I do private lessons. I don't mind doing it, but more of the master class is kind of the thing that I like to do. And I like to go old school with the kids. There was a school in Alabama, the School for Fine Arts, and the teacher, she wrote me in advance. She said, look, most of the students are not going to be music majors. We just want to have a good time. We just want the kids to, and I know what she was saying, take it easy on the kids. So I walk in and I said, all right, who's the band representative? And the band director stood up and said, no. Who represents the band? So they were like, the one guy, he happened to be a trombone player. This guy said, all right, young man, stand up. I said, now, your teacher contacted me in advance. And she said, please take it easy on my students. I said, so just tell me what y'all want. Y'all want the kid gloves or you want to go full board? I said, I'm going to leave the room for 2 minutes. Y'all have the discussion. So I left out. They had the discussion, came back in, and, well, what's the decision? He said, full bore. I said, all right, it's on then, baby. But, you know, the thing is, you know, you can be harsh with your critique or with your assessment as long as it's coming from the right place. As long as it's coming with a place of love, man, that's, to me, and that's how we grew up, you know, tough love. We grew up with that kind of tough love, man, you know, and these generations are so soft today. You have to, yes, but, you know, I find that when you're in the trenches with people, you can be tough because they know that you're there with them trying to accomplish a common goal. So I don't teach, but I'm happy to do the master class. And you're having trouble with your students, let me know.
and
and you know the thing for the slide, yeah, the Yamaha stuff. That's what she said, right? What I put on the slide?
Yep.
Yeah, the Yamaha, the little Yamaha thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
The purple and white bottle.
Yep.
I'm terrible at it though, man. Bill Waters is like, he cleaned his slide twice a day. I'm like, what? 2 or 3 times a day. I'm like, man, you got to be kidding me. Once every 6 months, if I'm lucky. Once I start to feel a crunch, maybe. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's not great, though. But Bill Waters, man, that's the most relaxed I've ever seen. That's the most relaxed I've ever played. And, I mean, man, to stand next to him, and I got to give a shout-out to Dave Scott, who's in San Diego. He's actually a newscaster, but he played trombone. He said, man, we're going to drive to see Bill. And, man, I'm so glad that he did because he just so relaxed. And I was like, man, are you even breathing? And he's like, yeah, I'm taking in air. And I was like, I had never even seen anything like, even never then or since. It's just the most unbelievable thing. And I'm standing right next to him. But, you know, he said something very important to me, which was, he said, well, you know, talking about himself, he said, the way that I play probably would not work in the New Orleans setting. And he said the New Orleans way of playing wouldn't work in the settings that I normally play. So the main thing is to find what your setting is and make sure that you're prepared to to do that. What's happening? What are you doing over there, man? You're yawning. Am I boring you?
No,
Yeah, man.
no,
I see you over there. Lynch, we're coming for you. We're coming for you. We're coming for you. I saw that yawn. I'm going to have to give you the Big Yawn Award. That's what I always mess with my kids about. No yawning is allowed. The 5 rules of yawn. 1, don't yawn. Rule 2, swallow it. 3rd rule, look away. 4th rule, cover it up. 5th rule of yawn, don't yawn. Play back the tape, you're gonna see it. Shame on you. But tell my kids about that. That's right. That's right. I'm gonna tell them. Got to be more discreet with that.
Got me.
Bitch. I'm saying that. Here's one. No, I'm not gonna put her on blast. I got a picture of one of my students doing it. Anyway, it's cool. All right, where we at? What we got? Any more questions?
We got one more.
Before I lull you to sleep, Declan Lynch, forgive me. My bad. What is it?
From Darren Staplin, what are your top 5 JJ solos?
Hollywood. The first one, the one that I love to play all the time, is from Belly's Bounce. It's not that fast, I'm just speaking through it. That one, it's all from the same record. And then he plays Yesterdays. Oh my goodness, my chops are giving out on me. Yesterdays, and then he plays one on My Funny Valentine. I even quoted him on a song that I played where he plays out. Man, it's been so long since I played these. But the way he plays the melody on that is really good. It's like he and Stan Getz are playing, and he counts it off. JJ would always count the song. He tapped the song off. You see. Man, it's harder to play than I think without the recording. So those three are good. And then, man, I learned there's a couple of more. That's the one. Those are the ones that I play the most often. Then he plays one on. There's another song in that record. It's called "Blues in the Closet." What else is on it? But I haven't really dealt with the JJ solos. I learned like he played some solos with Charlie Parker. Is it C Blues? The song I was playing earlier, Bongo Beat. He plays out. It's been too many years. I'm like, I remember it. But that's good for me, that introduction. Then he's got, of course, the song Say When. Anyway, Taplin knows the answer anyway. Why you asking me that, bro? So anyway, you're holding those yawns in, huh, Lynch?
No more. None.
Get some sleep, man.
There's nothing there. There's nothing
you
there.
didn't get enough sleep last night? What else we got? But those are great solos, Jack Teagarden. But I always say, anybody you like the sound of. I had to play the Rimsky course. Man, I went, again, another 15 years not playing any classical music. And for some reason, I got 2 gigs playing the Rimsky-Korsakov and the Bluebells of Scotland in the same month, which was just like, man, it was just ridiculous. But I found a recording of the Korsakov online. It was by a guy that was in the Army, one of the military branches. And I just listened at that. And the way that he moved the air, because I'm looking at the sheet of paper, man, the music, the sheet music is really meaningless. And it's to me, it's useless. It's almost like, a book is only good if you actually know how to read. So the parallel for music is, if you can't hear it, the notes really don't mean anything, because the notes can be written. And that's why you have the different conductors, and they interpret, and they're telling you actually what the quarter note and the eighth note is in their opinion. It's never, or else every recording would be the same. So I like to listen to those recordings. Something like the Bluebells of Scotland, man, you just have to have the chops on that one. At a certain point, you got to just practice that one. But I would say just anything that you like the sound of. Also, learn pop music, learn popular music, learn as much music as you can. When my daughter was, man, she must have been like 4 or 5. She was young. Anyway, she's taking a bath and I was practicing around. She's like, Daddy. I'm like, yes, daughter. She's like, play some race music. And I'm like, race music? Because if you know what race music was, that's like any music played by black folks before 1955 was all called race music. Before 1950. I'm like, girl, what you know about race music? She's like, like a car race. I think, oh, racing music. Oh, I'm like, a car. And then I was like, what does that music sound like? I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to play car race music on a trombone? So then I was like, and she's like, no, not a race car. Music, the music for a race. And I was like, oh my goodness. I never actually figured it out. But the important thing is that's what people don't think about musical terminology. They're like, play something. And I was just like, I just ended up going, and I'm like, sorry. I know she was just like, I might be 4, but that's some sad racing music. Never mind, whatever. But you know what I'm saying? Try to just find music that speaks to people, something that makes, sense. And you hear a lot of times trombone is playing on recordings and everything, and it's something that really speaks to people. What we got here going? Okay, let me just do this real quick. It's something that speaks to people, and that's what you want. You want your music to, if it's something slow or if it's something fast or something that's grooving. You never can go wrong grooving or playing the blues. People love that, something that's funky. Any more questions? I know it's nap time for Mr. Lynch. We gotta let you go ahead on and get your nap in.
I'm not used to this 9 to 5 schedule yet. You know, I need that midday nap. I haven't gotten past.
Well, get used to it, dog and dag nabbit. What about that? Get used to it.
We got one more, just another one of our fantastic Antoine Courtois performing artists. Doug Beaver is chiming in saying, "Hey fellas, hey Doug, hope you're still here, hanging out with us."
That's no cell phone day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And our fantastic producer has put a link to that book in the comment section. So everybody here with us, please click the link and check that out. DELFEAYO, thank you so much. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, sorry I bored you.
No, thank you for both being with us here.
We're gonna have to get you some Red Bull. Get that man some Red Bull over there. Tell him next time, whatever you're drinking in your cup, get the bourbon out and put the Red Bull in. Dag nabbit.
I needed
an outrage. Wait till I see you, young man. We'll settle this the old-fashioned way. Fisticuffs. But it's not me. I'm gonna bring my boy with me because he's much bigger. You have to deal with him. It's cool, though. It's cool. Cool. You know, because you play Courtois, so I'm gonna let you slide with it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Let you slide.
I need a good. I guess I need a good chop busting.
All right, what else we got? Any more questions?
No.
What about it? I'm gonna go take a nap. It's time for me.
It's my nap time. I need that nap time. I gotta do a quick little warm up, and I'll hit the hay. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you everybody for tuning in the comment section. And remember, next Thursday, 2 p.m., we'll be back here again with J. Laurie Bloom from the Chicago Symphony Orchestra and our woodwind product specialist, Matt Vance. Wow. DELFEAYO, thank you so much.
No problem, bro. Catch you later.
All right.
Get some sleep.